Welcome to another edition of Insight. I'm Michael Sharp. Today we have an interesting program. You know, very often people are incarcerated. They become the wards of the state for something they did at a very young age or even at old age. What do we do as a society? We say as a society, a civil society, that we have laws. If you break them, these are the agreed punishment to them. But to what extent are these punishments even worse than the crime? To what extent, when ladies are involved, how special we should take care of them? Well, you know, we have a lady here, Sara Morgan Walker, and a very interesting organization that she's the executive director for, the Angelic Ladies Society. And we're going to find out a little more, an insight, if you may, as to what exactly is that. Good day, welcome. Sara Lou, and there's Sara-Lou. So
Yes.
people might think and say, oh, come it's not, Michael, you have it wrong. It's supposed to be Sarah, all right? But it's Sara Lou.
No, it's Sara.
What exactly is the Angelic Ladies Society? What is that?
So the Angelic Ladies Society is a women-led organization that caters to the development and the spiritual and emotional and social development of girls who we consider high risk or vulnerable. Usually those girls are in inner city communities or state care, whether juvenile facilities or girls' homes.
You've gone gender on me immediately.
Immediately,
and I'm going to pull you back.
right.
It's a female-led organization. Is that a conscious decision, or is that the guys aren't turning up?
I wouldn't say the guys aren't turning up. I think based on the work that we've done in previous years, it has come to that. So having been the director and founder of the organization, a female, and then you find that a lot of females are willing to assist in the area that I work. So you find women in corporate Jamaica or families, mothers, sisters who want to be a part of the work that I do. So it has come to be a woman-led organization. Not that men are not supportive, because we have husbands and brothers of persons who assist us who are willing to be there with us. They drive, they come to the sessions we go to, and I've even met men who are willing to share the spotlight and speak to the girls about their own lives.
Yes.
So,
Is there a greater resistance to, if you're having a session, a man is in there, they not feel as open? I just want to get these type of things out of the way before we make the
in some instances, depending on the area of focus. If it's something that is very personal, like bodily related or part of their traumatic experience, and a man is involved in that experience, they tend to not want to be as expressive if a male is in the atmosphere.
A little intimidating,
right?
Even.
On the flip side, if you bring a male to some of these homes or to the juvenile facility, they find them very appealing. So, you know, they get all excited as teenagers, a guy or... You know.
Okay, and the reverse is true, you know. And put them to a male for a girl,
Yes.
you know.
So.
Yes. You speak to what you have done in the past. When was this born?
Okay, so it was born in probably around 2009. It wasn't a fully formed organization. What happened, I was working at my mother's school, and a lot of girls used to come up to me, Auntie, can you help me with so-and-so? They used to come and ask a conversation about menstruation, or they're being impacted by some sort of violence that's happening in their community, or tug of war between their stepmother and their stepfather, or whatever the situation is. See, I was put in a position where I had to offer some amount of counseling, sometimes financial support, and it was ongoing for the 2 years. I thought I could manage on my own, and I thought it was a brilliant idea to have persons come in from corporate Jamaica to help with the capacity building, the mentorship, the counseling, and to kind of provide some sort of role model that they can look to and have access to that they wouldn't normally have. So that's how it started. And so in the form of a club-like situation, and then it evolved after I left the teachings.
You were at your mother's school. You know, you slide over things, but you know me, I ain't gonna slide.
So
what's your mother's school? Where's your mother's school? Who is your mother? Yes.
So my adopted mother is...
Okay, now we go.
So her name is Miss Patricia Walker, and she operated rather, a extension high school. Superior Prep and Extension was located in the Crossroad area near to St. Hugh's High School.
Yes.
And after leaving, well, in between leaving university and not having anything to do, I offered to assist her with teaching some of the classes and operator administration in the office, and that's how I got involved in teaching somewhat.
So 2009, thereabouts,
Yeah.
you got involved with it. And that explains your hyphenated last name?
Yes, the adopted explains my... there's a story behind the hyphenated last name.
Yes, please. Let us have it.
So a lot of persons would ask, so are you married? And sometimes I stop them right in the tracks when I introduce myself. I say, my name is Sara Lou Morgan Walker, and no, I'm not married. To get that out of the way right away.
Yes.
And so I'm adopted. I have been adopted from baby, but you know how the system works. So
No, I don't.
well, most people don't, or they assume how the system operates. So at around maybe 2 days old, my mother she had just given birth. This is my biological mother in Jubilee Hospital. And I was born in the 1980s. So I can distinctly remember in the 1980s, when I read and have a recollection of memory of the time era, there were a lot of abandonment of babies. Sometimes you would read in stories, babies are on sidewalks, left in garbage bins and stuff like that. And I wanted to believe that my mother didn't want to do that. So having given birth, she stood outside the gate of Jubilee Hospital with me in her hand and waited for somebody to pass. And while she stood there, she approached somebody, maybe I don't know how long she waited, to just hold me. She wanted to use the restroom. This is the excuse that she used. And the security guards would not allow her to go back inside with the baby because she was discharged. And so the lady offered to hold me. She didn't return.
She didn't return.
No. And so after standing there for a couple of hours, my adopted mother brought me to the nearest police station, which at the time would have been a police station near Luke Lane.
Luke Lane.
Or somewhere around that vicinity. Right. So, and reported that, I was left, and they asked her, so are you interested in keeping the baby? And she said, well, let me talk to my sister first. And they both said yes. And so the process, the very long process began.
Very long process.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a very interesting story. I know you're going to tell me, Mr. Sharp, is about the angelic.
That's okay. Part of my story is involved in why I do the work.
That is correct. I got that distinct feeling having heard. You said that's her story. So how did you hear her story?
After, I suppose she told, my adopted mother told me what happened, so, yeah.
Yeah, so have you ever been able to make contact, know who she
A
is?
lot of persons have asked. In my teenage years, that period of time where you're trying to find yourself and all your hereditary stuff, do you have this, do you have this? I thought about looking for her, but I didn't go through with it, and over a couple of years, I've made peace with not finding her. And I've also done a little of what the counselors would call empty chair.
Empty chair. Teach us. I'm here to learn, and I know I was going to have a fascinating program today.
So empty chair where you actually pretend that the person is there, and you get to speak to them and ask questions and say how you felt about certain things. It helps with the healing process and closure when you're not able to have closure with the person.
Okay. So an empty chair is like if your chair was empty.
Yes, and you pretend that I was there and I'm the person you have the issue with. And you said,
Mom, tell me, why did you do this?
Yes.
That would be the kind of question.
Yes.
But where does the answer?
I suppose part of the healing is getting the feelings and the questions out.
Yes.
Because you formulate the answers in your head, most times they're negative.
Yes.
So getting the questions out and also having the process be guided by a professional
I heard one of the
counselor.
answers a while ago. Maybe she didn't want to abandon me like the rest. She used a good, in other words, I
Yes.
left
Her in
her
the care
of another woman.
Right.
That's important too, you know.
So
because-
those are the things that
Yes.
helped me to have some sort of closure and have helped in the healing process.
You said healing.
Yeah, present continuous tense.
Yes, yes. Do you consider that you're healed?
No, I don't think so. Even in my current friendships and maybe past relationship, I've seen where the root source of some of my entanglements, of my bitterness, maybe aggression, came from the idea of being rejected and being abandoned.
Yes.
And it was left, and so it festered.
Yes.
And seeped into other areas of.
Well, we're going to have a part two already. Because, I mean, just your story alone
Probably.
is fascinating, and I really realize that I thank God that this chair isn't empty.
No, it's not.
But what is about to get empty is my head if I don't go and take a break. So we'll be back on Insight with Sara Lou. And she ain't walking. She's right here. We'll be right back on Insight. Welcome back to Insight. Today we're having a discussion and getting some insight as to who Sara Lou Morgan Walker is. She's a Executive Director of the Angelic Ladies Society. We want to get that right every time. And we're getting in and delving in her background. And what we're finding out is what really prepared her for this, what gave her true purpose. And we're learning from this. But I'm not going to let you escape this part so quickly. Because you have two names. Walker is the adopted name.
Yes.
So where did the Morgan come from?
Okay, so that's the interesting part.
I think you like this story. Yes.
That's interesting because I even find it amazing. So my adopted mother gave me Sara Lou and my middle name, but I was not fully adopted by the state, so it was not official.
Yes.
So I was fostered, so I was not able to have a last name until the adoption process was completed and legal by the state. So I needed to have a name to enter the system. So the judge who presided over my case is the judge named that's Morgan. So it's Justice Morgan last name that I have. And then at the age of 10, when you go through all of that process, I went to Spanish Town Court to sit in front of the judge, and she asked if I'd like to get rid of the name and take Walker or keep both. And I offered.
And you to take both. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, it's amazing what goes on and around us, and we
Yes.
hardly know and realize and recognize it. The question I thought at one time, or the answer I thought I was going to be given, is that before your mother left, she registered your name.
No, actually, there was no name there. The only thing that they had was a sheet of paper that the nurses give you that says how much your baby weigh and the date that it was born, and
Yes, yes.
that's just it.
That was it. No number?
No.
I could call it,
No
54,
number.
46.
No address, no nothing.
No address, no nothing. Wow. I wonder if they have changed that.
I am not sure. I would have to ask one of my friends who recently gave birth. So,
There you go. There you go. You seem to have friends in all corners there.
yes.
So you were fostered first.
Yes. That's how. Previously, I think the CPFSA that is the Child Protection and Family Service Agencies, now incorporated OCR and CDA together.
Yes.
So I think they've changed a little over the years, and they've tried to make the adoption process a little easier for families. However, in my time, it was a little difficult They did a lot of visiting to the families, a lot of social work happened. They tried to ensure that the families that were taking these kids were suitable, the environment was okay. Yes.
So tell me something. You believe things happen by accident?
Not in recent times. I have changed my thought of accidental happenings to providential happenings. So I believe things were ordained by God. I might have not liked it earlier and had a lot of questions, those unanswered too. But over a period of time, when you start to see how God start to work and move and things start to unfold and things become very strategic and you start to manifest certain things, you realize that it wasn't accident. It was...
Then you start to let go and let God.
Let go and let God, yes.
Because what I'm fascinated by is to hook up with an educator.
Yes.
Yes. That's strange. What was Miss Walker doing down there?
And I think her life too was at the beginning of starting. So because she's a country woman, just come from St. Mary to live in Kingston, trying to get her footing, start her own life. She was 33 at the time, not married, not in any relationship, taking care of her family in St. Mary while she tries to make it here in Kingston, which is the typical story of most persons in that time.
Yes.
And to be now given this mandate, this life to take care of most...
What was she doing downtown?
I don't know. Well, I believe it was very close to where they lived because they lived in Luke Lane.
Okay.
They lived in Luke Lane, so she might have been going to...
Passing by. The gate wasn't there. People could walk.
People could walk. Right? So
Street,
she might have just been going to do some random business, whatever it was, and she just happened to be that person that she stopped. And I think about my mother too, my biological mother, how deliberate she might have been in choosing who to give her child to, because she would have still have been recovering from labor pains, because that was like 24 to 40
Have you ever heard, and I don't want to jump the ship here, but postpartum depression?
Yes, I have.
It's a serious business, you know.
And that's part of what helps me with my healing, because at first I was very angry, and I made up stories like in my head as to why she would do such a thing, and I would look at some of the rich families at the school that I went to, and I'd wonder, maybe somebody wanted to take me, and like, what were you thinking, like. And then I thought about what she must have felt. I think in maybe the last 8 years, having been exposed to, through friends, the feeling of giving birth. And though it might have not been something that you planned for, but that level of attachment that comes with the child, the minute you give birth to the child. So I thought about what she would have experienced in that because I have issues letting go. Maybe something that was inherited. But I just think about what she would have experienced in giving up that child.
But let me just guide you a little bit, as one who has not been pregnant before. Is that bonding starts when that child is moving inside.
Yes.
So the connection doesn't come the minute the child comes out. Yes, but there is hormonal issues that's called postpartum depression. It is so real.
Yes.
It is so real, and I thank God that she handed you to a lady. So that educator in Miss Walker, having spoken to her sister, and her sister agreed, what was the next move?
The next move for them, I believe, the CD at the time would have asked them to move, because where they live was not a suitable environment, an ideal place for adoption. So they would have to, so in that stage, they would have been looking and making preparations to move, but they wouldn't have been able to keep me. So I was at Jubilee for a couple of weeks in the premature ward.
Okay.
And then I was transferred after a couple of weeks to Glenhope.
Place of safety,
Right.
yes.
So Glenhope usually is one of the homes that take cares of the younger babies.
Yes, I'm
right.
aware of it.
So I've spent a couple of weeks there.
Yes.
And so she moved from Luke Lane to Meadowbrook.
Okay.
I don't know if they could have afforded
That's
it.
a quantum leap. I like that.
Right. So
Yes.
they made a sacrifice, and yeah, then the process started. I was handed over. They came and checked.
At what age?
I maybe 3 months around that
Okay,
time.
early. So they mom, you
early.
early know your story.
So yeah, so very early. So it's one of the blessings, not so much, but I've still been able to identify with the girls in foster home and girls' homes, but
Yes.
I've not lived most of my life in homes.
Okay.
But having had an opportunity to interact with them, speak with them, and having gone through certain things personally, I see identical things that they go through that I did.
Yes, and your preparation has been strong, and it's like miracles on top of miracles to
On
me.
top of- yes.
That's how I'm feeling right now.
Somewhat. Yes, it is. God has been.
What you said is no longer.
It's no longer accidents. It's providential.
Providential. I like that. It's not accidental. It's providential, and I get in the vibe.
Yes.
So you went to which school?
I went to Arden High School.
Look
That's
at
the high
you.
school I went to St. Patrick's Primary.
Yes.
So those were my earlier years. My mother was a teacher there, so that was pretty difficult.
Where?
At St. Patrick's
At St.
Primary. Never go to school that's your parents' work.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
yes.
I spent my earlier years there. I left St. Patrick's at 9.
Okay.
I did a common entrance.
Why?
Because I did common entrance in
You're
5th
bright.
grade. I
Yeah,
thought
because
so.
you're bright and you don't want to say so.
So I left there at 9, and then I went to Arden High School. By the time I got to Arden after the summer break, my birthday is in September, so
Okay.
a few weeks starting high school, I would have turned 10.
You're about to turn 10.
10, yes.
Ay, ay, ay. One of them little ones
It's a little.
that you have to, the thing is, do we send her? Do we hold her back a year?
Yes.
Do we, so how did you do at Arden High School? I want to say hello to the Ardenites.
Hi.
I got my connections there as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Arden was a struggle.
Really?
Yes.
Miss Pinto? What was it? Miss Pinto?
Arden was a struggle emotionally, academically, and financially.
Yes.
Every alley
Every alley.
showed up at Arden High School. I was pretty sheltered in primary school because I lived near to the school, so I lived in Waterhouse for a while.
Okay.
I'm a nomad.
Where in Waterhouse?
I live on Balcom Drive.
Balcom Drive. So I'm a
yes.
Bay Farm Road man, you see, so watch it.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are pretty nomadic. So I suppose because of financial reason, we moved a lot.
Yes.
Wasn't able to keep lots of friends, but so I know a lot of people, and a lot of people seem to know me.
Yes, yes.
So I lived in Waterhouse. I moved closer to leaving primary school, and then we went to Portmore.
Okay.
So-
Everybody goes to Portmore, it sounds like.
Yes. So having been sheltered in primary school, my mother is there. I live near to the school.
Yes.
So you go back and front of where your mommy go, you go with her.
And that didn't come with you to that didn't transfer to Ireland.
No.
A big school and
So I was pretty independent in terms of traveling and being able to take care of myself on the street and stuff like that. But I believe entering Arden with such diverse sets of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds affected me emotionally.
I'm going to ask you to hold on so you can explain that after the break. On Insight, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Insight, having an interesting conversation with Sara Lou, and she's the CEO, executive director, if you may, of the Angelic Ladies Society. But her background is so fascinating because we know she was being honed. She went through the fire, honed and prepared by no other than God. You know, it's providential, as she would say. Arden, you said, created a challenge because
Yes.
of the mixed bag and how you fit in, and as to, no doubt, your psychology going in there. Do I belong? Do
Nope.
people who seem to be happy in their space, but yet you are still trying to find, because you went early, you realize.
Extremely early.
And,
So.
You know, how did you make it through Arden?
Yes, I did,
Yes.
with the intervention of quite a number of people.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So my first couple of years were okay-ish, you know, like how teenagers would say it these days. It was okay. I was trying to be the girl in primary school and still academically and still maneuver all of what was happening in high
Yes,
school.
yes.
And so by the time I was having challenge academically. One, I wasn't able to have I didn't have books. So that posed a challenge in terms of study and homework. So even though my mother was a teacher, I didn't have the resources that was able
Yes,
to help
yes.
me to. And then I was very self-conscious, you know, low self-esteem. I didn't have, we were at a rough spot
Yes.
by the time I hit high school. So I remember at one point in time, I had one school uniform,
Yes.
one blouse, one tunic. And I would have to wash it when I go home. And I remember I had an accident at school, you know,
Girls, yes,
girls
yes.
accident at school. And I went to the nurse, and that was the first time she said to me, they had a box that students alumni, past students would donate back their
Yes,
uniforms
yes.
back to the school, and she gave me at least 2 of them. And I went home. They didn't even have time to make adjustments. So you just wear them as is.
Yes,
One material is totally different from the
From the
next
other,
material.
yes.
And so that was part of the journey. By the time I got to 9th grade, I was having trouble with my courses. I had some low grades in some areas. I had attitude on top of attitude. I could serve attitude.
Yes.
And I was angry. It was just a mess. And I believe a lot of persons saw the potential. I can speak to maybe 2 persons particularly, or 3. I had a best friend at the time. Her name is Tashini Francis. She was involved in theater, in drama, and drama club, and invited me to come and sit in one of their sessions just to see
Yes,
what it's
yes,
like.
yes.
Because going through all of that, I am shy.
Yes.
I don't talk to people.
Okay.
I go to school and I want to go home.
Okay.
You know, all these rich purses, and
Yes,
you know,
yes.
some days I don't even have lunch money. My mother used to teach, so she don't come to school when it's report day. She's never been to a PTA. And so there's a little thing that you feel teachers treat you a certain way too, because you're not
That's
no
right.
you're
Not
not,
known.
you're not known, your
Yes.
parents are not part of the PTA association. And so you're almost as an outcast within an entire school, and
Yes,
people
yes.
know that
Yes,
you're
yes.
not
You don't
nobody.
really belong.
You don't really belong. You
Yes,
don't have
yes.
anybody. And so I was that student. I was that girl. And she invited me, and I went and sit in, and I found it interesting. It was very, engaging. And so I still tried to hide. I would not be the person who would be on the stage acting.
Yes, yes.
And so I was involved a lot in the stage management. I do write down the blockings. And so I
Yes,
became
yes.
very active in that. And it helped to boost my self-confidence. And I remember when I completed 9th grade, I went to 10th grade, and they sign you up to do what CXC subjects you're going to do.
Yes.
Feel over the top, so I had a lot of science subjects.
Yes.
And when I completed 10th grade, remember now, my parents don't go collect reports,
Yes.
and I think I moved, so I would have to collect my report for 10th grade when I went back to school in September. So when I returned to school in September, I went to the office to collect my report. That was when I was informed that I was being asked to repeat 10th grade because the teachers were not recommending me to do the science subject in CXC because I was not managing well.
Yes.
And so I give God thanks for my two 10th grade supervisors. In tears,
Yes.
and I'm going a grade back, so now I'm going to be doing 10th grade with the 9th graders.
Yes.
These people that I don't know.
Yes.
So they called me, they sat me down, they talked to me, they offered guidance in terms of the classes that they think I should switch. So I ended up doing chemistry for English literature.
Yes.
I did physics for food and nutrition. And I did typewriting for biology.
Yes.
So I switched out all of my science subjects and ended up doing other courses.
Yes.
And those other courses I all got ones in.
Oh, hold on, don't burst some bubble yet.
So-
Hold on. You notice when I said you started early,
So
at
yes,
10?
At 10.
that's a point that you determine whether or not a child, not just academically, but socially ready to move
Forward,
with the
yeah.
older ones. Major decision, sometimes as parents you say, make them go
And
on.
that's true.
they're
That's
bright.
something that I've never looked at.
Yes.
Because a lot of parents want to get them out early.
That's just
and
correct.
make them do the exam, man. Yeah, them
Yes,
all right.
yes,
But I
yes.
don't think even though they might have been academically ready, I
Yes.
don't think some of them were
And see,
emotionally
but
prepared.
in other words, we delay the pain.
Yeah. But I think for me it was a good process.
Of course.
So
Of course it was.
I went through.
So tell me about the ones, because boy, I dying to hear about the Angelic Ladies
Society.
But
So
boy, your story is the Angelic
I did 6
Society.
subjects. I failed. I cried through the exam, which is the reason why I failed. I failed typewriting. At the time, it wasn't Microsoft Office or computer. So it was typewriting.
Wow.
Even now, I think my teacher still wondered why.
Yes, yes.
But I cried. I was so flustered in the exam after I made a mistake, and I lost time completely trying to redo it.
Yes.
And it just went downhill from there.
Yes.
So I got 3 1s, a 2, and a 3. I ain't doing over maths. I'm just saying that.
So what did you do after Arden?
After Arden, I tried to get into the University of the West Indies. I applied. I think I got accepted, but I was not informed.
Okay.
So I sat out a year and I went to the University Continuing Studies where I did I did go to sixth form at Arden. Okay. And I did a few A-levels that would have been at the time. We were right on the transition of changing from A-levels to Cape.
Yes.
So I did a few A-levels, and in that sit-out year, I did law A-level, and with my intention of trying to do law at UWI. That was my first choice. I didn't get accepted. I ended up doing a political science degree and a minor in criminology.
Where
at the University.
Did you complete the university?
Yes, I did. I graduated with upper second class honors.
Oh, there you go. A little girl from Jubilee.
Yes.
What a Jubilee that must have been.
And it's interesting, even because I aggressively tried to switch faculties at UWI to law.
Yes.
It was an interest, and it never happened. And I look back and I say to myself, there must have been a reason why I ended up doing criminology. Yes. My first time with Dr. Harriet,
yes,
Anthony Harriet, I was doing a criminology minor, and we had to visit the Tower Street prison. At the time, Jacquier was inside.
Yes.
That was the time he had made
behind
a song.
These prison walls.
Behind these prison walls.
Yes.
And we did a tour, and I became familiar with correctional orders, orderlies, and
yes.
who is separated, who is exclusive, remand and exclusive.
Yes.
And it was interesting that years later, I entered the South Camp Rehabilitation Center to actually work with the girls, and looked at it as like, wow, it's like we're going around in a full circle.
Yes.
So it was a good experience having done the theoretical background to juvenile delinquency and how the psychology of it and the criminal behavior and how the sociological impact affects. Yeah, so
yes.
it was interesting to do.
Nurturing sometimes take over from nature.
Sure, right. And so the theory was good, and then to have the experience of the actual practical and interaction.
What do you do now?
So now as the executive director of the Angelic Ladies Society,
Yes.
I was very honored and privileged to have the opportunity to work with Stand Up Jamaica, Miss Carla Galota. So they offered us a 2.5-year contract where we would provide therapeutic rehabilitation sessions for the girls at South Camp. And I pitched the idea, and she was very pleased and incorporated me inside of their Fresh Start program. So what we offered was a part of their rehabilitation program, but more something along the sides of the performing arts and how that would have made an impact. So I spent 2.5 years doing that. We would go in every Tuesday and offer dance, drumming, and sometimes dub poetry. And after a while, based on my own personal experience, because having been through art in high school, I've had the mentorship and pouring out from Sunday school teachers, from pastors, sometimes strangers, and teachers at high school. And I saw how that helped shape.
How do you say pouring out?
Persons would pray for me.
Okay.
And persons would sit down and encourage me when it was overwhelming. Sometimes it was a stranger that I got a hug from, and you see when you're overwhelmed emotionally and somebody hug you, you don't have no choice. You feel your entire body and your spirit just break away.
All right. Let's take a quick breakaway on Insight. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Insight. Our special guest, Sara Lou Morgan Walker, the Executive Director of the Angelic Ladies Society. They work with the ladies who are incarcerated, is that it?
In state care.
And state care. What do you do for them? What do you tell them? Are you making a difference?
I believe we are. What we currently do, we actually provide empowerment and motivational talks, and we get the women in corporate Jamaica involved. Because, as a young lady, you don't have access to these people. You see them on TV, and you'd love for them to be a role model. And sometimes persons have had a story, like myself, who can impact and inspire their lives. And so what we do, we create the atmosphere. We invite them to come and share with these ladies what their life has been like, what their journey has been like, and how they've made it successful. And they get an opportunity to ask them questions and to share with them. And we don't ever go without bringing with us the things that they need. So their basic necessities, toiletries. So every visit that we make, we bring items. So we hosted a breakfast last year, March, and we're hoping to do it again this year. We are awaiting confirmation of sponsorships and endorsements.
Okay. Oh, Lord, yes.
So we held, the Office of the Children's Advocate was our sponsor last year. They partnered with us, and we facilitated to at least 100 girls in state care at the Knutsford Court Hotel. And they got the opportunity to have a table mentor, so persons like Danique, Miss Marcia, the owner of Etenio. They got an opportunity to meet successful women in corporate Jamaica, spend the morning with them and be entertained. And after that, we embarked on a 1-year tour where we visited 10 girls' homes over the last year. And we brought them goodie bags, their basic necessities, and we brought women to share with them.
Have you ever seen any of them making the transition out of these state cares into the real world? Have you ever caught on to those?
I have, when I worked with, prior to my contract ending at South Camp Rehabilitation Center, I would be notified. They would tell you, Miss are coming out next 2 weeks, Miss are coming out next month. So you know when they're coming out, if you're, and you build that relationship with them, so they're free to tell you. And I find, and some of them have contacted us after they've left. And one other thing is I find that there isn't much that is offered in terms of transitional care. Nothing is provided for them prior to leaving that would help them. Yes, there is the rehabilitation programs, but nothing in the immediate stage prior to leaving prepares them for leaving. Nothing to make the connection between when they leave and how they are going to be reintegrated. Yes, to a minimal extent. Some of them who do, especially at South Camp, some of them who do well, because they do have the opportunity to do CXC exams. Sometimes just one per year. If they're there for 3 years, they might end up doing 3 subjects. If they're extremely bright, they might allow them to do 2. So you spend a year there and you're only leaving with 1 CXC subject. Where out here, you know, the comparison are minimum of 5. So it's difficult. And then they try to reintegrate them into the school system here. But then that also is difficult because they have a record, the school has to be notified about what their situation was, those kind of things. And plus, they are not academically up to the standard of the regular students in the school.
How do we fix this?
So that has been my challenge. And it's good for me because having had the experience, I am exposed to the lack, to the gap. So I believe the Angelic Ladies Society is in a unique position to offer solutions for that. I believe a transitional care program has to be implemented, both in the foster homes and in the girls' homes and in the juvenile facility, because they both leave at 18. Some of them leave, they don't have any homes to go back to. I met some girls in South Camp who say after their sentencing is finished, a part of the sentence requires that they do not go back to the environment that they used to live. What do you do for that girl who cannot go back to her own home because the court says that she cannot return to that environment?
The transitional care and the lack thereof, or the gap.
The gap.
Have no one taken that on as a serious study? Because it's frightening. It's almost as if, so you're locked up and you've wasted your time. Chances are you've even gotten worse. How do we fix that? What's the glue? What's the solution? What would you bring to the table?
There has to be something that meets them on the inside prior to coming out. And so what I have found is that I did a Conversation for Greatness, a JMMB Conversation for Greatness workshop, and I realized the person who offer care are not a part of the caring system. So it is as though the girls are confined. They are not rehabilitated. So we set up a confinement system that keeps them in check for the period of time that they're there. They obey the rules, you do this, you don't do this, da-da-da. And they try to implement somewhat of a rehabilitation program, but it is not holistic. So they have, for example, they have 4 psychologists that deal with the entire prison system. And South Camp Rehabilitation Center can have a total of up to 80 girls, both correctional orders and remandees. And imagine you need counseling for those 80 girls. I don't think 2 psychologists working on a rotation can manage 80 girls. So the emotional needs and there is not met, and they have limited academic resources. So they're not able. I remember Michael, Mr. Chin, NCB.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Michael Leachy. He did a tour of South Camp in December 2018. And one of his statements was that he would like the girls inside of South Camp to be able to access resources and function at the same level as his daughters. And I said, that's all well and good in the statement, but they have moms at home. They have sisters and aunts to show them love, to show them care, to when they do something wrong, to forgive them, to show them the right way, to provide the resources, to give them access to opportunities that they wouldn't normally have. Fixing up South Camp and building it up and making it look nice and giving them computers doesn't fix all of their problems, because you're missing the emotional part of the care that they need. You cannot take a girl and throw her in a fence because she has been disrespectful to you and think that is care. And I've seen that.
In the correctional center. So
because
the hard management.
So it's hard management. And sometimes, and they respond to you, the outsider, differently than they respond. Some of the things I have heard in terms of confession, or not confession of crime, but of their own feelings or expressions, I believe the counselors inside don't even know half of these things. And some of the counseling sessions might have been grouped, so persons are not necessarily open to
yes.
speak. And they'll tell you things, and they'll write journals, and the wardens will search them, and they don't feel like they have the privacy, or they're able to, it's just messy.
What if somebody says, Sara Lou, you think going to prison and you are spending time for some wrong you do, it's some kind of a tourism exercise. They go in there to, because of crime. Why are you being so soft on them? Can they truly be rehabilitated?
I was like that. I used to be like the general public. You did something wrong, because as a potential lawyer and law students, you think like that. You do something wrong, you punish, the punishment is this, you spend a couple of years, and we do best to do, or we can fix everything while you're there, and you come back out and go back to life. But then I've gone inside and met them. These are some 16-year-old girls who miss them father, who want go home, go hug them mother. And they're like, I don't know why my mother don't like me, because me look like my father. These are general teenage issues that they're experiencing. And I've met a girl in there that was the saddest story. She was in there from 13 to spend the next 5 years until she's 18. Why? Because she murdered somebody. Why she murdered a person? You hear the story? She take a gun and shoot her stepfather 18 times because he was bludgeoning her mother.
She get the 5 years. Wow, and I had the opportunity of hearing the other day from an anthropologist that one of the ways to fix the crime is to fix the females.
Fix the females on the social fabric of the society.
Yeah. Because most of the times where you find a girl, she misses her father, that father element. And if a woman is violated and she comes up and have a child, it doesn't make it any easier for that child. And we don't spend enough time researching these matters and knowing where the challenge is. We think it's a boy picking them, but if we don't fix our women.
The women, the UN Charter rights, part of their study also included the fact that if you're able to fix your society if you educate and nurture your girls.
Yes.
And there's truth to it.
Yes, and it is like we're not settling down and dealing with that. I mean, we're not saying it often enough.
And I must say there are civil society organizations that are doing a lot of work in these areas, in the girls' homes, in the juvenile facility. You have Stand Up, you have other organizations that are doing the work. The challenge is the funding.
Yep. And I hope that we will meet again soon and do some more of this program, because I'm inspired. The Angelic Ladies Society. Thank you, Sara Lou.
Thank you
Morgan
for having me.
Walker. I can't leave. Should your mother see you? Because she said she'll mark you. Yes, she'll mark you.
Yes.
If you were to see her one day, she said, I just want to ask for your forgiveness. And what would you say?
Well, I think I've prepared for that opportunity. I have forgiven her. Therapy has helped. My counseling sessions have helped. And I believe I would more want to hold her and let her know that it's okay.
You said something about a hug a while ago. Give me one. All right.
See, I didn't fall apart.
My good friend Dorian Samuels always say, hug your child.
Hug your child.
And that's it for Insight this week. Michael Sharp wishing you pleasant viewing.